Right, I can speak now to one of the world's leading urban warfare experts, retired Major John Spencer. He's chair of the Urban Warfare Studies with the Madison Policy Forum and author of Connected Soldiers. Thanks so much for coming on the programme.
Thanks for having me.
So what's your assessment so far of the fighting and how the Ukrainians are performing?
I think they're performing exceptionally well, much more than we thought, even in this phase. I mean, you see the ambushes happening even as I see the pieces falling into place for the Battle of Kyiv, which is the only battle that matters. It's a war for the battle of that city and for Zelensky. We saw anti-armor ambushes attacking those armor formations, exactly the kind of stuff that needs to happen to make it even worse for Russia to even attempt to take Kyiv.
And so what are some of the specific challenges of urban warfare?
Yeah, so the challenge of urban warfare is that no military wants to do it because it takes away their strength. So like this situation, the Russian army can't know where the enemy is inside exactly. So they bomb places they think they are, and that'll be investigated. And they want to avoid going in the city at all cost. I think it's too late for that. He has to go in. And when you go in for the military, it's a nightmare because your drone footage atop, the satellite footage doesn't work as well. Your fires, all your artillery, all that doesn't support your maneuvering forces. Your tanks are vulnerable. Your infantry are vulnerable. It's a real nightmare for any military, let alone one that's showing as poor as the Russian military.
Well, that's really interesting. But on the flip side of that would be the numbers still, and the fact that they are many, soldiers, whereas many of the Ukrainians, however long this goes on, will be volunteers. What's your kind of prediction? I want to ask you straight out for a prediction, but what do you think does happen next?
Yeah, so the numbers are against the Russians. It takes 5 normal good soldiers against 1 good soldier defending in urban terrain. They don't have the numbers to do what they want to do. I mean, I predict if Russia keeps pushing and closes off, so I predict a heavy bombing. I mean, beyond anything we've seen so far in the Battle of Grozny, which I don't think this is the model that we should think. This is more going to turn into the Battle of Stalingrad. But in Grozny, they launched 30,000 rounds a day into the city before they entered it. That's what we're going to see next. And the Ukrainians have to be able to get into safe places like the underground, weather that. And then at some point, he has to push these forces that he's moving into place that we see, the armor and the tanks. No good soldier goes into an urban fight like this without a tank. And tanks without infantry are vulnerable. So he has to punch through the defense in some way. And the Ukrainians have done an amazing job, from what I've seen, in preparing that defense, literally turning Kyiv into a fortress city. I mean, I honestly think the model we should be thinking about is Stalingrad, not Grozny, not the Battle of Baghdad.
I just want to pick up on one of the things, obviously, repeatedly calls from the Ukrainians for a no-fly zone, repeatedly rejected. So let's park that as if that's not going to happen. What kind of support do you think the Ukrainians need?
So they need as much anti-tank. So I know we've talked a lot about the Javelins and the In-Laws and the Stingers, but that's the most lethal man-portable and system that you can hide and then nobody can find. That as much of that needs to be rushed into that city as possible before the gates are closed, because you can see Russia trying to close the gates with fires in the west and with moving forces in. I mean, that's the #1 goal, is to take out the tanks before they get in, because he can't get in without those.
Okay, retired Major John Spencer, thank you very much for coming on the programme. Thank you.
Thank you.